Mark Randall is a serial entrepreneur, compulsive inventor, and disruptive influencer from America. With more than 25 years of experience conceiving, designing, and marketing innovative technologies, he has 3 successful high-tech startups to his name. Starting off as an entrepreneur, his products have sold over 1 million units, generated over 500 million in sales, and have been used by half the Fortune 500, all branches of the US government, and thousands of schools around the world. Today, as the Chief Strategist and VP of Creativity at Adobe Systems, he builds new businesses and encourages Adobe employees to take initiative in building the future. He develops and leads Kickbox, Adobe's new innovation process to turn big ideas into reality. Since its inception, the Kickbox program has been a hit within the company. Over 2,000 international participants have used the Innovation Toolkit to design all kinds of creative projects, apps, and Adobe product enhancements that might otherwise have never seen the light of day. Adobe Kickbox has been extensively covered in the media and adopted by hundreds of global enterprises, universities, and non-profits including Cisco, MasterCard, and Caterpillar to foster entrepreneurship and a culture of creativity and empowerment.
So about 10 years ago, Adobe, I sold my 3rd startup to Adobe and became an employee at a huge, super well-run company. And at the time, my largest company, my largest startup had grown to about 200 or so people before I sold it. And so suddenly I'm in an organization of over 12,000 people, and it was just a completely different environment. And to Adobe's credit, when they bought my startup, they said, well, you're a product guy, you invented new products, creating new industries. We want you to keep doing that here. Don't just run your products that we acquired from you. We have people that can do that. But we don't have enough people that can innovate. And you, for your entire adult life, have been making products. And so keep doing it. Go and make products. And they gave me latitude, no particular structure, no particular immediate requirements. And I then proceeded to go for 2 years, my first 2 years at Adobe, without shipping a new product, which was the only 24-month period since I've been 19 years old that I had not shipped a new product. And so suddenly I'm in a large organization with tons of engineers, an amazing toy box of technologies, almost infinite resources compared to my small startups. And for the first time, I'm unable to ship a product. Now, confronted with this reality, I could blame Adobe, super well-run public company, or I could blame myself. So I decided, problem must be with me, what I'm doing. So what I did in my startups is not working in a large organization. So I'm going to need to change the playbook that I used before in order to succeed. So I'm going to have to rethink what I've done and experiment because my regular routine isn't working. So I went back to the drawing board and I started experimenting to figure out how could I create new businesses in the context of a large public corporation. New businesses that the CEO didn't necessarily understand or believe in, certainly didn't ask for, and new ideas that might be even threatening to existing products, existing businesses. Kind of career suicidal when you think about it. How could I do that successfully? And I slowly, very slowly, was able to sort of work my way through it and figure it out. And it required me doing everything differently than I had done before. And it started to work. And I was able to ship new businesses, Adobe's first cloud service, TV everywhere service called Adobe Pass. We got it shipping, and it became a success. It won an Emmy Award. But it was something that the organization hadn't asked for. And in fact, the CEO had actively tried to shut it down a couple of times. I was sort of playing hide the project, at the end of the quarter. You guys, some of you may have done that before. Because new things that are different aren't always welcomed. And eventually it was welcomed when it was understood, but when they're new, there's this adaptation period where it's alien. And you have to get through that period, and it's not easy, particularly in an organization that is rewarded by public markets for consistent delivery on a quarterly basis. Consistency is more important than success sometimes. Of course, we always want to be successful, but it's about delivering the goal, naming the goal and delivering that goal. And yet innovation is messy. Innovation is not predictable. Innovation, as Guy said, can be failure. So how do you do it in a large organization? I'm going to share with you what I figured out. And in fact, after it started working, I got feedback from my peers in the organization, from my boss, saying, wow, what you're doing is really cool. Don't understand it. It's bizarre. And it kind of freaked me out at first, but it's working. So could you teach other people how to do that? I thought about it for a little bit, and my answer was no. No, I'm not a teacher. And also, you may have noticed that you here in this organization hire the people from the best schools with the best track records, the best grades, and people who have worked a successful career of ascending success, and then they end up with a job at a blue chip company like an Adobe or a FUSO. And that's not me. I'm a serial failure. I've been bankrupt. I never graduated from college. I would have never been hired at Adobe if I hadn't come with an acquisition of them buying the company that I created. I would not have been hired. My resume wouldn't have made it past the first screening. So, trying to teach people to be me, who are in this organization, is probably not going to be successful. Plus, you don't want everybody to be an entrepreneur in a large organization. You just need a very small amount of this very potent force, because entrepreneurs tend to be deeply flawed people. I like to think of entrepreneurs often as profoundly broken, but in just the right way. And they can move mountains when you align the motivation of the organization with the entrepreneur. So I had to think about, how would we teach people in this organization who are not like entrepreneurs? Because if they were really like entrepreneurs, they probably wouldn't have been hired in this company, and they wouldn't have been successful and stayed inside the company, because it's two different cultures, the entrepreneurial culture and a large public corporation. So that's where this crazy thing called Kickbox came from. So Kickbox is a complete kit that will give an employee inside a large organization everything they need to come up with a new idea and convince the organization to do that new idea, if it's a good idea. So, what's inside the box? Everybody is wondering. Well, first let me tell you the goal. So, this question came to me in 2012 because Adobe was facing a crisis. We, very successful software company, and we had gotten very successful by shipping 5-inch round shiny discs in cardboard boxes around the world. But the world was changing faster than we were. There was disruption on the horizon, and we knew that our existing business model was changing and the core technologies were changing. And that's really the definition of disruption. You know you are facing stormy seas when technology is changing and the business models are changing together at the same time. That is what causes large incumbent leaders in markets to suddenly become not beaten by new emerging startups. The new emerging startups just make the leaders irrelevant. It's worse than being beaten. Because a new startup isn't going to beat a leading company in a drag race. They're just going to change the nature of the race so that everything that the leader was good at becomes irrelevant. And how do you respond to that? You don't respond to that as a large organization by being even better at the things that you're already good at. You have to get good at new things. You have to build new core competencies, and that is profoundly difficult. So I realized if I'm going to help people innovate inside a large organization, what we should put inside this kit that's going to empower people needs to be different. And it needs to be a process. So Adobe realized we had to move to the cloud. And when we do that, it's not just a change in how we engineer our software, it's a change in how we deliver our software, it's a change in the business model of how we're compensated for our software. So everything is changing all at once, and how we innovate needs to change. So Kickbox is a grassroots innovation process where we push innovation to everyone in the organization. Anyone in our organization can invent a new product line or a new business for Adobe. It could be somebody in legal, it could be somebody in janitorial. Everybody is invited to participate in this innovation process because we need a small amount of innovation. And we don't think that every one of our 20,000 employees is going to become an innovator. If they did, our company would blow up. Because some people actually have to ship the products that we've already promised and make the products that are already in the market work. And so what we need is a very small amount of disruptive thinking. So Kickbox was designed to bring us innovation that we didn't know how to ask for, and to help shelter that innovation long enough that it could cross the divide. So the first goal was actually to increase our rate of failure, because in 2012, we funded, now we have our sort of labs, our research group. We do collaborations with universities, we do fundamental new research, and we've done it for decades, and we haven't stopped doing that. That's very successful, we're gonna keep doing it. Then we have our product groups. Our product groups are listening to customers and developing new products and new features in those products, and we haven't stopped doing that either. It's very important, it's been successful for decades. We also have entrepreneurs in residence, like entrepreneurs that want to go and try new ideas, and we do that, we haven't stopped doing it. So Kickbox is this fourth kind of innovation that we just layer in on the top, and it really involves no process change in the company. So in 2012, we had funded about a dozen new ideas. Every year we'd fund a dozen to 2 dozen new ideas, new explorations. And we'd spend 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and maybe $250,000, $500,000, like prototyping these new things and putting them in front of customers. A dozen ideas, 2 dozen ideas, and we might get 4, 5, 6 winners, new features, new products, maybe even a new business every once in a while. And as we looked at that and analyzed it, we had a realization that actually that hit rate was way too high. 1 in 4, that's way too high in the casino of disruptive innovation, which means that we were not taking bigger risks. We weren't taking risks that were big enough to have big payoff. And so one of the goals of Kickbox is actually increase our rate of failure, but to do it non-catastrophically. And this is the key, because if you're thinking about your position, your world, if you work in a large organization, what's in it for you to be an innovator? Why should you do this crazy thing? Why should you try something new? Now, you'll hear from Hartman, he wants you to innovate. You'll hear from your manager, they want you to innovate, but they also want you to continue to deliver what they hired you to do in the first place. And so you get these conflicting messages. How many of you have kids? Here, just raise your hand. How many of you have kids? A lot of, yeah. And of those of you that have kids, how many of you love them? Yeah, it's been a good week. Yeah, I have a child, and I usually love her often, most of the time, except those times that she's challenging. And, so I have to communicate to her. And you see this with all kids. They know when their parents communicate. There's the, hey, stop that, don't do that, and then they just keep doing it. And then there's that tone. There's that nonverbal thing where you say, stop that, and they, right? There's that real communication, and they instantly, it's amazing how kids know, right? And they instantly know. So in an organization as leadership, how do we communicate that we want innovation? I mean, we can stand up on the stage in front of all of our employees and say, innovation is the lifeblood of our company. It's the requirement for the future of our success. And we can mean every word of it. I did a survey of employees at Adobe. It's like, how many of you heard our CEO say that innovation is the lifeblood of our company, that we face turbulent seas, that we must make this transition? Everybody heard him. Everybody believed him. But then I asked the question, did you think he was talking to you? Well, no, not me, right? One of the other people. Well, if you have employees, What's that nonverbal thing that communicates to them that you really mean it? What is it? Because we can say the words, and yet we're saying them with all the force and sincerity of beauty pageant contestants asking for world peace. When a manager, when a leader, when Hartmut expects you to do something, how do you know he really means you to do it? And it's not just a platitude that we all say in business. Business runs on platitudes. How do you know they really mean it? Well, you give them an impossible timetable, deadline, right? You give them an insufficient budget to do it. You give them inexact resources and requirements, right? You give them those 4 things, and that's how people know you actually expect them to do it. So if you really want innovation in your organization, you have to give people those things. Otherwise, it's like, stop that, okay, sure, and then they're gonna, like innovate, sure, okay, and then we'll pretend to innovate while you're looking for a minute, and then we're gonna go and do our jobs, which is what we actually get measured on at the end of the year. So we wanted to increase our rate of failure, and we wanted to communicate to people that we actually expected them to do it. So anyone in the organization can get a kickbox, and they come to a workshop for 2 days where they unfortunately have to listen to me talk and try to teach them how to use these tools. And inside the box is a credit card, and it is prepaid, and it has $1,000 on it. $1,000. For them to innovate. Now, half of you, where are my engineers? Engineering people? Yeah? All right, about half the audience, that's good. People actually make the stuff that the marketing people promise. Engineers saying $1,000, that's not enough to do anything. Can't make a truck for that. And the business people are like, $1,000, you're giving everybody in your organization who has some crazy idea $1,000? That's not sustainable. That's crazy. That's too much. So is it too much or not enough? Well, the answer is both. If we were trying to build a product with it, but we're not. We're just trying to validate that we have a good idea. Could we test a value proposition? And it turns out that $1,000 is more than enough money to do that. Even if it's $1 million product, even if it's an enterprise-only product, $1,000 is enough to go do some early, quick testing in a few days to find out if we have an idea that might be worth actually putting some more resources behind. So we give every employee who wants it a process and some training and $1,000, and they can spend the $1,000 however they want. No receipts, no tracking. They have to spend it on innovation, but they can spend it on whatever they want. So for the first $1,000, Kickbox innovators are the CEO of their own idea. Now, they may not get any more money, but the $1,000 is enough for them to get enough data to go actually get more money, which is exactly how a startup works anyway. What else is in the box? Well, there's sugar and there's caffeine. These are 2 of the 4 major food groups of all innovators. Because we really expect you to go do it, you're going to need to be caffeinated and kind of hyped up on some sugar. There's a process. You open the box, it says start here. And then there are 6 color-coded levels. And they're pretty simple. It's self-guided. Anyone can do it. These 6 levels, each one is on a little card, quick reference card. No big book to read, just quick reference card. And at the end of each of the levels, there's a set of checkboxes that you check off. And so you guide your way through the process. I don't manage the innovation. I don't even know what the ideas are. Because the first year that we deployed Kickbox inside Adobe, the year before we had done about a dozen ideas. And in the first 12 months of Kickbox, we tested and prototyped over 1,000 ideas for less money than we had done the 12. So part of the magic here of a Kickbox is that we are making the failure that comes with innovation non-catastrophic. And of course, that's lovely for the shareholders of the organization. But as an innovator, potential innovator, you're sitting here thinking, is it really worth it for me to do this? It's going to be non-catastrophic for your career. So you're not going to quit your day job. You're not going to take a big chunk of budget that's going to make somebody mad when it doesn't work out. We're going to start with a small amount, and it's going to be okay if you fail. We're going to make a small context, and that means it's okay for you, career-wise, to take a smaller risk. So how do these levels work? Well, let's go through this. First of all, it'll work in any type of organization, not just a software company, not just a high-tech company. It works with the existing processes. There's no change to the organization. Kickbox will even work in an organization that's never heard of Kickbox. Adobe changed nothing about the process. In fact, most Adobe employees and most Adobe managers had never heard of Kickbox the first year that we were actually doing it and innovators were shipping products in orgs that had never even heard of Kickbox. We didn't promote it. We just taught the innovator how to do it. They went and did it, often not even telling anybody that they were using a process, and it just works. In fact, we've even had people who were trained in Kickbox at Adobe, eventually left Adobe, went to another organization that had never heard of Kickbox, had an idea that, well, I was trained in that Kickbox thing, I still have it, pulled out the cards, and without telling their boss or anybody that they work with, executed the process and managed to ship a product in that organization that had never heard of Kickbox. So there's literally no requirement that anyone else in the organization even knows about Kickbox for you to go download this and try it. Completely self-managed. And there's no overhead. Almost the entire budget for Kickbox is on the $1,000 credit cards. The further innovation budget, well, that comes in a minute, and I'll teach you what that does. So what happens if you beat the red box? You see, the red box is not your friend. The red box, the 6 levels, if you complete all the checkboxes, and you get to level 6, and you complete those checkboxes, you have conquered the red box. You stand victorious atop a crushed red box. What do you get? Fabulous prize. A blue box. What's in the blue box? No one knows. It's a secret. But I can tell you that the blue boxes are delivered by leprechauns who ride on unicorns. Yes. The interesting thing is every red box is the same. Every blue box is different. And we've given out 26 of them so far. And our most recent one was a couple weeks ago. And you get one by selling an idea, a new idea back to the organization. It could be an idea for anything, internal process improvement. It could be an idea for a new feature. It could be an idea for a whole new business. And we've had all 3 of those happen. We think it's important to open up innovation to all employees. If you're going to have a grassroots innovation program, our engineers, our research scientists, our product managers, they get enough. Part of their main job is to do innovation. But we're looking for a diversity of inputs. We want to widen the funnel. And so if you want to do that, you need to open it up. Now, that would be silly if you were giving everyone $1 million in the box. But if it's just $1,000, that's survivable. They don't come up with a good idea. They'll at least learn how to have an idea. They'll learn how to articulate that idea. They'll even learn how to put it in front of a customer and listen to what that customer has to say. And often the customer doesn't like the idea. That means you have to learn how to take no as an answer from a customer, which is an incredibly valuable lesson that you would like every employee in your organization to have. So if all we get as an organization for our $1,000 that we put into Kickbox is they try a dumb idea that was never going to work in the first place, but they actually had an idea. They learned to articulate the idea. They learned to reach a customer, a handful of customers with that idea and put it in front of them, and then listen to the response, even if it was no. If that's all we get, it was the best $1,000 we ever spent on training and employee development ever. And in fact, our head of HR has said that if we got 0 innovation out of Kickbox, HR would fund all of it because it's increased employee engagement, employee customer involvement, recruiting. People want to work for the company that believes in their employees enough to invest in them. So we open it to everybody. And they can do any idea. Why? Because I don't know, what's the limit? Somebody asked me once, well, we're a software company. Can I do a flying robot toy? And it's like, well, I wouldn't think so, but then now all of a sudden drones have happened, and that's all driven by software. So, I mean, where do you put the line? And for $1,000, I did the math once, and it costs us about, to listen to an idea that we weren't planning to do would take a senior director or above in our organization. If there wasn't already a budget for something, to go find the budget, no matter how small, senior director would have to approve it. So to have a meeting with the senior director and the various hangers-on and entourage that travel with senior directors costs about $1,235 in time, right? Just the time of those people to sit in a half-hour meeting and hear an idea and say no. So the actual cost to hear an idea and say no is $1,235. So we say, don't tell us the idea. We don't want to know what your idea is. You probably haven't even had the idea, but here's $1,000 to go try it. And every time we do that, we save $235 because we don't have to have a meeting to listen to the idea and say no. So we just say yes. It's actually cheaper. We save money every time. So it's a cost savings to not have any filter on the ideas, because otherwise, nobody could listen to 1,000 ideas in a year and then have, like it's like if you want to scale it big enough to get a bunch of new ideas, you have to make them self-selecting and self-eliminating, right? They may scale it big and scale it quick. So we fund them and give them the money before we've heard the idea. Craziness, right? So what are the levels? Let's quickly just review this. So the first one is all about motivation. The key is aligning motivations. It's incentives, of course, but most innovators don't innovate because there's some incentive. I know we'd like to believe that, but it's not true. I've never created a new product solely because I just wanted to get rich from it. Innovators are driven. They're a force of nature, and they're driven, and it's about finding the right person in the right moment who sees a problem, who sees a customer, who sees an opportunity. And that intersection of the right person. They may have been the wrong person 6 months ago. The problem may not have been visible 6 months earlier. And it's the collision of that person, that moment, that little piece of information, disparate pieces of information connected, and them having a process to go move it forward. That's what we're looking for. So it's aligning their personal motivation with the organizational motivation, which means our customers' motivation. Level 2 is all about having ideas. We teach people how to have ideas because you want people to have ideas. It's an ongoing process. Level 3, well, that's about polishing winners, picking the right ones. We give people tools like checklists and scorecards where they can go through and figure out if their idea is good. And we teach them how to get feedback from other people that might be able to tell them, because I don't have time to even hear all the ideas, and I don't hear all the ideas. And so we give them these tools where they learn how to do it with their peers. And then in level 4, they go and directly talk to customers. We give our employees permission to go talk to a small group of customers for a limited period of time, a few days, with an idea that we haven't heard, marketing hasn't approved, branding has never seen, and legal doesn't know about. And we are a public corporation. And our CEO is not in jail yet. How does that work? Well, we give them some guidelines. We tell them, please don't be stupid, or we won't be able to do this anymore. And it turns out most of the people we hire are pretty smart. And they understand that we're trusting them. So we're saying, please don't screw this up. We won't be able to do it anymore. So don't take money from people for something you can't deliver, and don't promise things that can't be delivered. Like, just be smart. Go do the right thing. And it turns out they do. So they go talk directly to customers and they test. They get objective data from customers, not just opinions, but a tiny bit, not anything you could prove in a court of law, but some directional data. And then they evolve that hypothesis and use it going forward, because in level 6, they're going to use that data. Because in corporate America, we play this game, HIPPO, H-I-P-P-O. Have you guys heard of HIPPO? All companies play this game, HIPPO. It's called highest paid person's opinion. And we all know that they're always correct. Hartman has never been wrong about anything, right? And he knows all the answers. And he determines, and when he speaks, reality changes to fit what he says. If he says that idea is not going to work, he's certainly correct, right? Certainly, Adobe CEO Shantanu is one of the smartest people I've ever met. And if it's a debate between Shantanu and I. It's Shantanu's opinion against my opinion. I think this is a good idea, Shantanu. I want to do it. And Shantanu, I've had this meeting. Shantanu said, I don't think it's a good idea. Who's going to win that discussion? Well, if it's my opinion against his, he's going to win. And he knows, he's probably right. So if you want to win an argument with Shantanu, with Hartman, bring data. Bring customer data, because if Hartman is like my CEO, Shantanu, as soon as I start talking about the customer that has this problem, and here's their picture, and here's their name, and they're trying to solve this problem, suddenly he's leaning forward in his seat. Tell me more. Let's talk about that. And say, I have a small amount of data that says this customer is positively responding to the idea of doing this product. Can I have some more money to test it? And that's essentially Kickbox. And that's how you get your blue box. So people started hearing about us doing this and writing articles and saying, wow, that Kickbox is amazing. I started getting phone calls from tons of organizations saying, that can't possibly work. That's crazy. You give $1,000 to anybody that wants it. You've never heard the idea. You let anyone in the company do it, and you let them do any idea they want. That's insanity. And you don't even manage it. All of Kickbox, like 10% of my time and half my administrative assistant. That's the entire Kickbox organization at Adobe. It's run by the innovators. It's the lightest weight thing ever. And it's working. So we open sourced it. So anybody can go and download Kickbox for free. You can, and you could even use it. And other organizations have. Cisco has deployed it to all 60,000 employees worldwide. Came up with 1,100 new ideas. MasterCard created a thing they call IdeaBox. 700 new ideas. Swisscom's done fantastic things with it. Other telecoms, credit, consumer credit, heavy equipment manufacturing, Caterpillar. They make big things out of metal that move dirt. And they're a 100-year-old company, and out of their first Kickbox workshop, their first consumer product in the history of the company has come out. And I don't even know what it is, but they told me it's going to be in Home Depots across America by the end of the year. And I'm excited. They said, you're going to want one. I'm like, I want one already. Can I get a discount? And first consumer product in the history of the company. These guys move dirt, but this innovative process can work. So other kinds of companies, universities, nonprofits, Peace Corps, all using this crazy process. So you can go here, kickbox.adobe.com, and download it for free. No strings. And you can adapt it. You can use it. You can deploy it inside your organization. And everything I know about Kickbox, everything we know about Kickbox is there on the website for you to download, use, and adapt for free. So the point is, what makes it work? Putting trust into action. By giving people some money, we've now communicated, we really expect you to do this. By trusting them for at least $1,000 to try any idea they want without review. That's putting real trust into action. And making it non-catastrophic. So if the idea blows up, we don't track the end results on purpose. There's no possible way we know. We make a big point. As an innovator, if your idea fails, there's no possible way anyone at Adobe can know unless you tell them. So there's zero career risk to you. We literally don't look. So you can do this. Even if you've strung together the optics of constant progressive success in your career, and you're terrified that you might be pegged as somebody who can't succeed, if you have one failure, one black mark against your name, well, Kickbox as a process is a free shot. No one will know unless you tell them. So don't tell anyone unless it works. If you get positive data, then tell people. Otherwise, it's a free shot. And that's really what makes the core of the process work. Thanks.